got bit by that spider, I've only had 1 week where my life has felt normal. That was when you found out.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, we started getting some visitors. From every universe. Hello, Peter. You're not Peter Parker.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Dr. Otto Octavius.
Wait, no, seriously, what's your actual name?
There are others out there. We need to send them back. So, Scooby-Doo this crap.
You know, all this is kind of your mess. I know a couple magic words myself, starting with the word please.
Please, Scooby-Doo this crap. They're flying out into the darkness to fight ghosts.
What do you mean?
They're all dying, fighting Spider-Man. It's their fate. I'm sorry, kid.
Yeah, me too.
Don't.
There has to be another way!
Where is it? They're invaders of our universe. I'm not gonna take this away from you. Peter, you're struggling. And everything you want, while the world tries to make you choose.
This is all my fault. I can't save everyone. What's happening?
They're starting to come through, but I can't stop them. December 17th, exclusively in movie theaters. Tickets on sale November 29th.
Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Wednesday's humongous, gigantic edition of the dceu MCU Movies TV Daily. So we just reacted and watched together Trailer 2, the much anticipated second trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home. Has there ever been a more anticipated movie than this one? If there has been, I can't remember it. Of course, in the history of movies in Hollywood, there have been anticipated movies. So there's a lot of stuff to unpack in this trailer, but the concept, the story of this thing is that Peter asks Doctor Strange to cast a spell to make people forget. Peter interrupts this spell because he doesn't want his friends to forget. It all gets fucked up. So all these Spider-Man villains come seeping through the multiverse. These are villains who died trying to kill Spider-Man, who fought Spider-Man and died. That explains it. So Doc Ock comes through. But it looks like from this trailer that he's actually helping Peter, not hindering him initially. Now that may change. I would suspect eventually the Green Goblin, played by William Dafoe, is going to corrupt Doc Ock, and what a meeting that's going to be. Raimi's Doc Ock on the same screen, fingers crossed, hopefully with William Dafoe's Green Goblin. So that's very exciting as well. And it's interesting to see what other characters are going to seep through the multiverse, because there's a lot more going on than this. I would correct MJ and say that actually this is Peter's fault and not Doctor Strange's fault, although he did cast a spell. He shouldn't have cast a spell in the first place. My highlight, my favourite character through both of these trailers thus far is Benny Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange, Dr. Stephen Strange. He is brilliant. I mean, we've all known since Sherlock that Benny is a genius of an actor. I mean, I could even say that maybe the MCU is beneath Benny, but he chose this character. He sought out being in the MCU because he's a big nerd himself. So he's absolutely great. We also saw MJ potentially falling to her death. Now, this is interesting. I don't think she's going to die. There's no way they're going to kill her off, but you never know. And, you know, anything's possible. Some people saying that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man actually saves her and Tom Holland's Spider-Man fails to catch her. And that would be a great redemption arc for Andy Garfield's amazing Spider-Man, because obviously he wasn't able to save the woman he loved in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So you see there's a bit of a redemption arc here. Well, that would be very clever by Feige to do so. So as I say, there's a lot of elements. We see Jameson down on the ground. We see him looking like, oh my God, what the fuck's going on here? This just seems like a typical classic blockbuster. Great CGI, great action, great laughs, great emotion. Thus far, it looks really, really good. And there's no reason to complain about it. I know some people were desperate to see Toby and Andy. Listen, it looks like they're not going to show us them. Maybe in a third trailer. Will we get a third trailer? Or is that the final trailer? Wouldn't they have said that's the final trailer? When's it released? Is it early December or is it late December? I can't remember now. I think we've still got another trailer to go. And if they make as huge a fuss about that, and why wouldn't they take advantage of all the hype they've created of this movie because of the leaks they've done purposely about Toby and Andy being in the movie. But this movie is more than that. You're going to see a lot of characters seeping through, not just villains. But it's an interesting concept that these villains who died trying to kill Spider-Man are coming through the multiverse basically to do the same thing again. And basically the Green Goblin, played by William Dafoe, is going to get them all together to be one team. Now, Doctor Strange says in the trailer that they've got to get rid of them. They've got to get them out. They can't be, you know, they're falling into this earth and they can't stay here for one reason or the other. So they have to get rid of them. But the big question is, by the end of the movie, is this what the MCU is going to be now? Just these villains seeping through. Now, you can't have that, obviously, because it would... I mean, the MCU are good at bleeding things through their other movies. And I mean, is this kind of a Smallville meteor freak scenario situation here, where you kind of... they have to fight these villains falling through? So if there's another movie, oh, this villain's fallen through. In this movie, we have to fight this villain. I suppose it's a clever way of doing it. Will we see characters like Morbius and Venom? I think we're definitely going to see Venom, but I think we may see Morbius as well. That will be interesting. I think, look, as I said yesterday, this is Marvel Studios' Flashpoint movie, but a very different story to Flashpoint. Yes, you know, the multiverse gets affected through what the titular hero does in a kind of way, but Flash is a different movie in terms of he goes to save his mother's life and he creates an alternate Earth 1. So very different. So Earth 1 in the MCU isn't an alternate version, but we're getting all these characters who died falling through the multiverse. But I would ask this question: how is that actually possible? It's a fascinating concept, but how does that actually work? So that's one element of it. What I will say, because so many people, I mean, this is a movie of cameos, isn't it? And I think the MCU since Avengers Assemble have been great at that, because that's the key element of this franchise. That's why people keep on coming back for more, or one of the major elements of it. But let me give you a comparison. In Arrowverse's Crisis on Infinite Earths, we saw Tom Welling's Clark Kent from Smallville, you know, cameo, have a little spot in that arc, and it was revealed that he gave up being Superman to be with Lois and his family. Now I would ask you this question, Smallville fans and DC fans: what would you have preferred? not to see him in crisis and not to have that revelation and just remember him with his shirt, tearing his shirt open and being Superman, revealing the S-shield, or having the reveal that he's not Superman anymore. I know what I would have chosen. And what I'm trying to do here is give you kind of a precursor of a warning. Maybe it's better that these characters aren't going to be in this movie, but they are going to be in this movie, because there's so many ways they could be fucked over in changing the dynamics of these characters and how we left them. At least if you leave them where they were, you remember them fondly. Even though some people don't like Spider-Man 3 or Amazing Spider-Man 2, there's a lot of people that do. And what I'm saying is, I would trust Kevin Feige over Greg Berlanti, who's in charge of Arrowverse and would have been in charge in constructing the story for Tom Welling's Clark Kent. For me, it's a clusterfuck to have him not being Superman, but Berlanti's kind of obsessed with that concept, and it's very, very disappointing. But at the end of the day, it's a risk. I wouldn't think that Feige would do anything to destroy these characters, but there's lots of ways that you can do that. So that's a negative to this, but it's just too tempting. They've done this all over deal with Sony, so they can use anything Sony now for this movie and maybe movies in the future. Obviously, the Sony kind of cinematic universe is going to be crossing over a lot with the MCU universe, which is a lot of fun, and it's what everyone wants. As I say, it's what motivates people for this kind of thing. But the question is, what type of movie is Spider-Man No Way Home? Is it a dark, brutal movie with proper character consequences, or is it just a movie teasing character consequences and everything goes back to the way it was? Is there people who are going to die? Because this film is Avengers Assemble, Avengers Age of Ultron, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame level. This is how huge this movie is. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, this would be a dead-on over $2 billion at the global box office. But it could get very close to that anyway. As I said as well yesterday, it depends how this movie is received. This is a very interesting movie. It's not a deep movie as such. As I say, it's a typical blockbuster, but the hype and excitement for it is interesting. But what are they doing here? Are they shutting off Tom Holland's trilogy? Is there a place for him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? It's an interesting thing, because I think they're at least going to kill off one of these Spider-Men. And the popular choice is Tobey Maguire. Not that nobody likes him, it's because people think he'll make that ultimate sacrifice. It's interesting. What if they kill Tom Holland's Spider-Man off? Now, this would be a very, very controversial decision, and Feige doesn't really make controversial decisions. He plays it safe. Within his narrative, within his stories, I can't remember a time when he's tried something a bit edgy, and maybe someone can remind me where he's done something where people have gone, whoa! The Professor Hulk thing, shit. But he gets away with it because he's Feige and it's the MCU. I think if that was attempted in the DCEU, people would lose their shit, because people are always taking pot shots at the DCEU. It's a fashionable thing to do. It's a fucking trend, right? But when Feige takes the piss, no one really cares. When Feige, there are Feigisms in this trailer, like the moment when they laugh at Doc Ock for his name. That kind of takes you out of it a little bit, but you're going to get this. This is the MCU. It is something to laugh at, but maybe characters within this universe shouldn't be laughing at it. But here lies the problem with that, because this isn't really a comic book accurate Spider-Man universe, and there lies the problem. I think we need to get more people who understand these comic books and these characters, both at DC and at Marvel, both at the DCEU and the MCU. Now, I'll tell you why I think this works, and that's the first Wonder Woman film. Alan Heinberg had written Wonder Woman in the comics before, and Snyder brought him in. Now, he's not the most famous comic book writer or the most famous person who's written Wonder Woman, but he is one of the best people. And you can tell from the film, the story he co-wrote with Snyder, and the screenplay he wrote on his own. the heart and soul of Wonder Woman is in that film. He sums her up beautifully because he knows her and understands her. In Raimi's trilogy, he sums up the character beautifully because he knows the character and understands him. In Mark Webb's 2 films, you may not like those films, but he still feels like that character. There's an understanding of Spider-Man. There's a lesser understanding than there is in the Raimi trilogy, but it's still there. I don't see an understanding of Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home. I don't see that understanding. And Alan Heinberg did that in Wonder Woman 2017, the first Wonder Woman movie. And Patty Jenkins is clearly a person who just doesn't get Wonder Woman and only watched the fucking Linda Carter TV series. That's the problem. I'm not sure if anyone involved with these first 2 Spider-Man films actually understands Spider-Man. And I think the Russos did understand Spider-Man. They cast him right. They got him right. Tom was amazing. Tom within himself is amazing. The way he gets excited in interviews, he's a lot of fun. I mean, maybe he's a jerk in real life, but he seems like a really nice lad, doesn't he? So I think there's rumours that the Russos are in negotiations again to work within the MCU. If I was there, because clearly there's going to be a next phase for Spider-Man. Now, I don't know if that's just going to be in the Sony cinematic universe. They're creating a Spider-Man, extended cinematic universe. Great idea. So I don't know what they're going to do. But if Holland stays, and that's more than likely, but I think one Spider-Man is going to be killed off here, and it will probably be the actor who least wants to keep on doing it, and I would imagine that's Tobey Maguire. I just get that sense, but who knows what's going to happen here. It could be the biggest shock would be Tom Holland's Spider-Man dying, and it's not something that Feige does, is it? I mean, this is a very popular Spider-Man with the kids, the girls, girls love Tom Holland. So it probably wouldn't be a very good business-friendly decision to make. But maybe within the narrative it will be interesting. But I think you lot don't even know what this film is. I really don't. And I'll tell you why. Because this is the interesting element of it. A certain young Mr. Miles Morales. How about this then? Tom Holland's Spider-Man dies and is replaced in this universe by Miles Morales. What do you think about that? Kevin Feige is going all representation and inclusion, getting very inclusive. I'm not going to criticise that, because inclusion within itself is a good thing as long as you don't weaponise it and market it instead of marketing the film and the story and the characters and the actors, right? But anyway, I think this could be a thing, that Miles Morales will replace Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So I actually think it's very feasible that Tom Holland's Spider-Man will be killed off. Now, please comment down below and let me know what you think about this. So what both these trailers show is that Spider-Man No Way Home is so leaps and bounds superior as a film. And I haven't seen it yet. And by the way, I will give you an exclusive here. I will be seeing Spider-Man No Way Home before the release date. So what I'm going to do here on my channel is not give you any spoilers, but anyone who knows me, when I have seen this film. I did it with Aquaman before it was released. One of my first videos when I started my channel, did really well. I'm going to tell you what I think about the movie. I am not going to tell you what happens, who's in it, who's not in it, no matter what we know and what we don't know. I think it's important we respect each other as nerds and geeks, and I know a lot of people do spoilers and leaks and things like that, and I do it sometimes. But I think in terms of such a hugely anticipated movie, I think I'm not going to tell you anything, but I'm going to tell you honestly what I think of the movie. I'm going to tell you if I think it's a good movie, a mediocre movie, or a shit movie. I don't think it will be a shit movie, but who knows? Nobody knows anymore. We didn't think The Last Jedi would be so underwhelming, but it was. And so, at the end of the day, and I don't know if I promised some other stuff on today's video. It doesn't look like it's going to be possible because we're talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. So I apologise to DCEU fans. There's not really many updates or any updates, to be honest with you. So we're going to stick with this for today. I may give you a little morsel from the DCEU just to end up with. In fact, I will do. So stay with me. So my underlying theory for Spider-Man No Way Home is Miles Morales. I think he's coming. And what's interesting about this, because the studio haven't leaked anything out, if he is in it, no one's fucking saying a word. Don't forget, they would actually have to cast him. I mean, he will be a great selling point for the movie. Why wouldn't you reveal him? But it's a great shock, isn't it? Imagine the film starting with Miles Morales. Think about that. Because let's be honest about this. Actually, think about this. Because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is really a Miles Morales movie, isn't it? Think about it. So, it's probably feasible that they may be doing the same thing. What if this film is actually a kind of adaptation of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in live action, and Miles Morales might be a co-lead in this film? Now, looking at the trailers, it doesn't seem viable, does it? But it's easy to frame a trailer in a certain way. That, you know, Miles and Tom Holland's Peter Parker meet in the middle of the movie. So I think you should look out for that and be prepared for Tom Holland's Spider-Man to be killed off for Miles Morales. Or, this is another thing. Here's something else for you, and this is an interesting one that maybe you won't like. Because they've got to send back all these villains, ghosts, back into the multiverse where they come from. Again, I don't understand how ghosts are seeping through into Earth 1 of the MCU. That's something we're going to have to theorise about on another video, and we'll have to wait for the movie ultimately to find out what's going on. What if Tom Holland's Peter Parker Spider-Man has to go with them so they stay there? And what if Tom Holland's Spider-Man is trapped, at the end of the movie, is trapped on another Earth in the multiverse? And what if this Earth is actually kind of the Sony Cinematic Universe? It makes sense. But then, what happens to Tobey Maguire and Andy Garfield? Do one of them get killed off? Do they stay in the MCU? That's something I probably can't theorise about. I mean, it just explodes my head to even think about that. It really, really does. But they're my theories that Tom Holland's Spider-Man either will be killed off or be trapped on another Earth in the multiverse to send these ghost villains back. And my other prediction is that Miles Morales will be playing a big part in this movie and will be the main Spider-Man in the MCU. More than likely, they're going to have Tobey and Andy over at the Sony Cinematic Universe, or at least one of them. So you're going to get the best of both worlds here. Now, where Tom Holland's Spider-Man goes, if he's not killed off, it's interesting. Now, Tom's told us some interesting things. I think some are fibs, some are true. He's obviously a great mechanism to hype up what's going on, but he says he hasn't signed another contract. I think he's lying, by the way, but that's what he said. Now, of course, if he's getting killed off, he won't need to, but it's interesting. Would it be controversial for fans for Tom Holland's Spider-Man to be replaced by Miles Morales? Yes, it will be a hugely controversial moment, but it's a piece of controversy that Feige will be able to deal with. In terms of Miles Morales having every right to be part of the MCU, for fuck's sake, right? I would love that. And to say, you know what? We've just given you 3 fucking different versions of Peter Parker's, Spider-Man. So surely we've never had a live action Miles Morales before. Isn't it about time we make him the main Spider-Man in the MCU? And I would have to agree with that. Anyway, I love the trailer. I think it's amazing. There are red flags for this film. I think there's a lot of ways this film can go south. But at this moment in time, I'm enjoying, like you are, the hype and the excitement. And it's a great trailer. Bring on December and bring on Spider-Man No Way Home. Chill out, DC and DCEU stands, fellow DC and DCEU stands. I've got 2 or 3 DC and DCEU articles. So last night, hidden in the Spider-Man No Way Home hype, the brand new 8th season, I think, of The Flash, I think premiered. It was last night. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to try and watch it on Netflix later on because it is available on Netflix. here in Cyprus, but there was an article written up before the premiere, and I think Grant Gustin is talking about his interactions with Batwoman. So I thought, because that premiered last night, and superfan Scott Edwards left me kind of on my timeline, kind of asking me to talk about this, I thought for once I'd grant your wishes, Scott, because there's a lot of times I forget to do your articles. I want to do them. I want to talk about your talking points. I am not ignoring you. I've got so many things on my mind because of what goes on in my real life. But here you are, granted your wish. Here's an article. Arrowverse Armageddon will have unexpected Flash Batwoman crossover. The CW's Arrowverse Armageddon crossover, Grant Gustin's The Flash and Javicia Leslie's Batwoman, by Paul Sharif. The Flash's Armageddon event-filled feature an unexpected team-up. Let's say that again. The Flash's Armageddon event will feature an unexpected team-up between Grant Gustin's Flash and Javicia Leslie's Batwoman. Gustin has played Barry Allen, the Flash, since season 1 of the CW Arrowverse series, which is about to debut its 8th season. The season will kick off with a 5-part event crossover called Armageddon, which will feature main returning Arrowverse characters including Cress Williams as Jefferson Pierce, Brandon Routh as Atom, Kat McNamara as Maya Queen, Chyla Lee as Sentinel, and Osric Chow as Ryan Choi. I'm really excited about that, by the way. Returning to their villain roles will be Tom Cavanagh as Reverse Flash and Neil McDonough, who I love, by the way, as Damien Dark, with Tony Corcoran as the main threat, Despero. Javicia Leslie took over the role of Batwoman in season 2, playing a new character named Ryan Wilder, who assumes the cape and cowl. Leslie replaced Ruby Rose, who left Batwoman on controversial terms and had played the character of Kate Kane underneath the cowl. Rather than recast Kane, showrunners created Wilder and cast Leslie in the part, thereby forging a new path for a new character, but still under the guise of Batwoman. Now Leslie's Batwoman will meet up with Gustin's The Flash for the first time, but it may not be with what fans expect to see. According to Gustin, talking to EW, the crossover event will see the first meeting and team up between the pair, but he warns that it's not going to be what everybody would expect, elaborating, by the time we've crossed paths on the show, it's not going to be a typical Flash and Batwoman team up. I think is all I can say. What that means is unclear, and it's obvious that the Flash cast and crew are trying to keep a lid on any spoilers to this team up. Could it be kind of they're talking through a screen, communicating on a radio or something? Or is she got under a trance or something and Barry has to fight her? Interesting, right? Showrunner Eric Wallace says that he could not tell Armageddon as a story in 5 parts without Black Lightning and Batwoman, and notes the issues of getting both Leslie and Williams into the event, saying it was a logistical nightmare to make it happen, but they were able to pull it off. Wallace goes on to say that Batwoman will appear in a pivotal scene for the crossover. Does that kind of makes me think she's only in one scene? Interesting. Maybe I'm wrong. Which he's very excited to share. I believe it's the kind of scene our audience has been waiting years to see, and we finally got it. He says Batwoman Season 3 is currently underway, with The Flash Season 8 set to join it tonight. The crossover events in the Arrowverse have been a major draw to that corner of the DC universe, bridging characters together in a cohesive and fun way. Much like the comics do on a weekly basis, both Arrow and The Flash have led the charge on these events thus far, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. In many ways, it's also the perfect way to entice viewers to watch the shows of crossover characters as well, going beyond an exciting creative choice to a sound business tactic to keep the fires burning over at the CW. The fires went out, mate, a long time at the CW, and they're not coming back on. It's entirely likely that those tuning in for The Flash will start tuning into Batwoman once their Armageddon team-up kicks off. No. Unless they do something to make things interesting, because right now no one is tuning in to Batwoman apart from the people who already are. But I'm happy to give the CW yet again its 5 billionth benefit of the doubt. It is DC. I will watch this first episode with anticipation, and I may even give it a little review. If I hate it, I won't be watching the rest of the episodes, just in case any of you want to ask me to review it. But I'm going to watch this one and check it out. And I'm intrigued what this big sequence between Batwoman and Barry Allen Grant Gusting's The Flash is, that does intrigue me. The Batman's Batmobile revealed much bigger in new photos. The Batman's Batmobile, I must admit, I like this Batmobile. It kind of looks like Kit the Car, doesn't it? It looks really snazzy. The Batman's Batmobile is revealed to be much bulkier and more Mad Max style in big and detailed new images from the Warner Brothers Hotel in Abu Dhabi by Paul Shuri. Oh, Paul's on a roll today, isn't he? A new look at the Batman's Batmobile shows the biggest and clearest view of the vehicle yet. The Batman is the latest incarnation of the Cape Crusader, which is directed by Matt Reeves and stars Robert Pattinson as the titular hero. Co-stars include Zoe Kravitz, Colin Farrell, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, John Turturro, Barry Coogan, Andy Serkis and Peter Sarsgaard. I can't believe they've actually put Barry's name in it. They don't even know who he's playing. The Batmobile has been an iconic pop culture vehicle since it was first seen in the 60s TV show, taking on many forms throughout the years. Tim Burton's Batman revealed a longer-bodied drag race-style car that was emulated and redesigned in multiple ways with Joel Schumacher's Bat films, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Christopher Nolan adopted a more tank-like, by the way. I love it. Christopher Nolan's Batmobile is great. Oh, I love it. But he never wanted one. It was Warner Brothers that said, we need a fucking Batmobile, mate. You ain't getting away with that. Anyway, tank-like militaristic style for the famed car in the Dark Knight trilogy, which was often referred as the Tumbler. Yeah, I love the Tumbler. Rather than the Batmobile now, the popular ride will take on an entirely new style for the Batman. Those of you who actually know Batman comics, because I don't, has this design ever been shown before in the comics, or is this Matt Reeves' own thing? The Batman's Batmobile has been revealed in multiple promotional pieces thus far, from still images to trailers, and now Mikhail Villarreal has shared some big new looks at the vehicle while on display at the Warner Brothers Hotel in Abu Dhabi. From the photos, the new Batmobile looks much bulkier than it appeared in the earlier reveals, taking on an almost Mad Max meets Knight Rider kind of look. The photos show the car from a few different angles, including the light-up features from inside the hood and a detailed look at the wheels and tyres. Take a look at the images below. So I'm going to click on this because this is through Twitter. So give me a minute, if it allows me to. Hurry up. Chop, chop. I ain't got all day. Neither of my good subscribers. Got this fucking internet, man. Come on. What's going on here? We're getting there. It's coming through. It's coming through. It's going to happen. Please stay with me. It's here. Yeah, here we are. Oh, now it's taking the fuck. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. Come on. This is ridiculous. I'm going to have to stop this now. Right, here they are. Right, here they are. Oh, we got it, right. Let's do a big close-up. This is nuts. Sorry about that technical problem. Now, when I first saw this in the first teaser at last year's DC Fandom, I wasn't overly impressed, but this looks the fucking bollocks, doesn't it? I mean, obviously, Matt must be a Knight Rider fan, because that is a Knight Rider Easter egg. Now, it's interesting. Is this a bulletproof car? I would assume so. And also, has he got this car because this is him in his early stages and eventually he'll get the iconic Batmobile? I have no idea, but I do like this. And I do assume this will go faster than the average car as well. So it looks great. So, brilliant. And then you've got kind of another kind of angle of it. As I say, I like it. It's different. It's Matt Reeves' vision, and that's fair enough. But very good, yeah, very good. I like it. As I say, it's awesome. Let me just phase it out a bit. Look at that. That is absolutely fantastic. Now let's go back to the article. Technology is not my friend today. Anyway, we'll get there. We're back on the article. Right, Reeves has cut his teeth on dark and grounded takes on popular franchises before, notably with Cloverfield and his Potter films, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. He also did Let Me In, which is a remake of Let the Right One In, which was known for its more grounded and less flashy take on the vampire mythos. Reeves is known for his spectacle, but it's always presented in a way that feels like it's happening in the real world. So very much like Christopher Nolan, but his story beats are so much different to Nolan's, and he has much more knowledge of Batman and Batman media than Nolan ever has. Reeves has leaned into the concept of a more grounded Batman for his new films and wanted the car to emulate his vision as something that Batman Bruce Wayne would have built and modified himself. With the film focusing on Batman in his early years, it makes sense that the car would be more Mad Max than Tumbler for this iteration. If anything, the overall design showcases Reeves' understanding and execution in bringing this tale to life in a way that fits his grounded approach right down to Batman's will. So, yes, another great article by Paul. I like this. I mean, to be honest with you, there's not a version of the Batmobile I've hated. I still think the one from the 60s series is the fucking Don. It's the bollocks. That means it's good. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's a British term, the dog's bollocks. You'll learn about our British terms if you keep it here on Movies TV Mad. Click subscribe now and like, just for that bit of education. So yeah, but what I would say about the 1960s one, it's pioneering. It's the first live action version, and to do that back then is sensational. But I like this new design. Bring on the Batman in March. And finally today, it's a little reunion with my friend and your friend and friend of the superhero movies, Ridley Scott. Well, he may not like all superhero movies, but I think he's nipping away at the MCU, but he's a big fan of Joaquin Phoenix's performance in The Joker, and I think most of us, if not all of us, are. How Ridley Scott feels about Joaquin Phoenix's performance in The Joker. Ridley Scott reveals his thoughts on Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker in Todd Phillips' 2019 film before the pair's next project together, by Chris Cole of Screen Rant. Director Ridley Scott has shared his thoughts on Joaquin Phoenix's performance in the 2019 film Joker. Upon the film's release, Joaquin Phoenix served as the latest actor to step into the role of the Joker and did so under the capable direction of Todd Phillips. After it was first envisioned in 2016, Joker was subsequently co-written in 2017 by Phillips and his writing partner Scott Silverts. The movie ultimately served as an origin story for a different Joker to the one played by Heath Ledger in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy or in the DCEU, as he terrorizes Gotham City after miserably failing as a stand-up comedian. Phoenix recently teamed up with Scott for a new project. As announced in 2020, Phoenix will endeavour to portray Napoleon in Scott's upcoming film Kitbag, which begins production in 2022. The film follows Napoleon's swift, previously unexplored ascent to French leadership. Kitbag will likely highlight Napoleon's crazy war tactics and turbulent relationship with the love of his life, Josephine. Apple Studios picked up the project, and the final cut will stream exclusively on their Apple TV Plus platform, if you're interested. In a recent sit-down with Deadline, Scott shared his feelings on Phoenix's performance in Joker. In a nutshell, Scott spoke of Phoenix's work as being almost Shakespearean, saying that much of what audiences see from Phoenix on screen is based on the character's authentically damaged soul. Yet, although Scott shared his belief that Phoenix can practically do anything, he's particularly excited to monitor his portrayal of Napoleon as he breathes it into existence. See what Scott said regarding Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker below. Before we do, Joaquin Phoenix is an amazing, unique guy with a unique story. You know, River Phoenix was his brother, the late River Phoenix that everyone was saying is going to be the next big thing. Then he died tragically, and Joaquin became an actor. And I think the kind of actor, I'm not sure if River would have ever made it, because we'll never know in terms of how Joaquin's done it. But Joaquin is kind of doing this with kind of the ghost of his brother watching along. It must be, I don't know what it's like to be Joaquin Phoenix, but to have that history is sensational. He is elegant enough to contain his rage and say, what older, wiser man can do this instead of me? So it's almost Shakespearean, and I think you know Joaquin can do anything. So When he then does something like Joker, there are moments in the Joker that I've never seen before. There are reactions in the Joker which are silly. You can't just say they're not evil. They're coming from a damaged soul. And that's what I'm looking for. What will Joaquin's version of Napoleon be? He will be the painter of his own portrait. And I'll be there to monitor it as best I can, because that's what I do. I make sure I cast great. And you certainly have this time, my friend. It has been over 20 years since Scott and Phoenix joined forces and presented the world with the historically based and now legendary film Gladiator. Scott's recent comments portray his deep admiration for Phoenix's entire body of work, with his performance in Joker being just one gem among many. Scott also provides some seemingly subliminal insight into his high level of confidence for Phoenix's ability to portray any given character, stating that he will be there to monitor the performance. Yeah, not interfering. You don't interfere with this guy's performances. I can tell you that much. It is electrifying to think about Scott and Phoenix teaming up again after so long, especially given that Kit Baggs appears to be in a very similar genre as Gladiator, in which Phoenix plays Commodus. Phoenix's Oscar win for his performance in Joker shows his outright dominance as an actor, with the span of 20 years to hone his craft since Scott's 2000 epic Gladiator. It is seemingly unthinkable that the pair could miss on any level with their new project. However, as production draws nearer, more enticing details are sure to be revealed about Phoenix and Scott's newest collaboration. And think about this for a minute. After this production, maybe the next production will be the sequel to Todd Phillips's and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Think about that. This has been the DCEU MCU Movies TV Daily. It's a mouthful when there's lots of stuff to talk about, isn't there? Please comment, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again with even more DCEU, maybe MCU, Movies and TV Daily, or maybe it'll just be the DCEU Daily. I'm confused, you're confused. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.